New videos every day.
This is Athena Jezik, and we're going to do a back massage. That's something I've done many times, but everybody likes to have back work done. So I have a different back, as many of you have probably noticed. So there's some different little things I can be pointing out. It's an unfamiliar back. I haven't worked on it before. So with just moving my hands a little bit, placing the thumbs in different muscles and feeling the tension, the movement of them, is a good way to assess things. At least it works for me. And I check up here in the neck area. Now when the neck is a little creased like that, it's better to have the face piece dropped just a little, if it's not too far of a drop. Is that comfortable for you? So that way there's no line there. It's easier to get a nice clean straight line down in the cervical area so that you don't get that little curve coming out, and that's just a little bit better position. However, some people's necks and heads have gotten to where they lean back so far, or the neck is so short that you just have to have a neck crease, because you can't drop the face cradle far enough for them to be comfortable. They almost have to be like looking under the table, and that isn't a comfortable position to be in. So just use your discretion and modify where you have to modify. Again, there's the ideal, and then there's the reality of it all, and with each body there's some kind of anomaly that we all have to shift around and work with. So now that we've got the oil applied, and I've gone back to the oil rather than the lotion on the larger parts of the body. So here we go. As I do my routine, and I've done this routine for 24 years, I deviate a little bit from it, but I always come right back to it because it's a routine that covers the muscles well. It moves from muscle group to muscle group, and it gets the job done very thoroughly. It's origins to insertions, and here I'm just starting with the way a lot of people begin their massages, spreading the trapezius, spreading the scapula area open, feeling for what kind of tension is in the shoulders. It's oftentimes very tight. It's an area that carries a lot of tension. It's an active area of the body. There's a lot of movement that goes on in the shoulders. There's a lot of reaching and stretching and turning and carrying, and so there's a lot of activity that goes on. Running the thumbs down in the thumb iron, I go along the rector spinae, close to the vertebrae, and then move it out to kind of the belly of it all, coming down that strap. Back up, and then we're going to go on the edge of it. And you'll just have to kind of feel for where it is. It has other attachments that sometimes come into it, so you feel little different things. But as you work it more and more, and look at anatomy books, you'll get an idea where you are. Okay, then just running the hand opposite and giving a nice sweep on the body is always good. Nice. Then coming over to the side. Again, I don't know how this is going to work at the camera angle on this side, but stretching that, just working it down into the shoulder, coming into the scapula, and just pay attention to the origins and to insertions. Follow the muscle, follow the anatomy. There was a little muscle quiver that happened as I got into here, so there must be some tension going on. And I'm just coming up the same area that I just swept down on. Getting up, and always come up into the neck. This is really nice to really complete it by going up into the neck. There's a little feeling of incompletion when it just stops right there at the neck line rather than going into the base of the skull. And down we go here. Lifting the shoulder up a little bit. And sometimes there's a little shaking, there's some tension here. You know, I always can tell when there's been a lot of activity on a shoulder because the muscles are carrying a certain kind of attention, and it's a different kind of attention than an injury or overwork. And this is a sweep down the back. Some work here at the attachments, feeling what's going on. And then up the spine, right alongside the vertebrae, all the way to the base of the skull. And you might change your pressure a little bit here depending on how much muscle mass is underneath your fingers and also how much the muscle is inviting you in. Sometimes it may invite you in a little bit more, sometimes it may not. And then lighten up a little bit when you get to the neck and take it into the base of the skull. And the third one, now the same thing I do as going down at the beginning is I start closer to the vertebrae when I'm running up this, and then to the more belly, the middle of it, and then the edge of it. And then I like to do cross fiber friction after that. And this I just, at each little vertebrae, I just push the muscle into the vertebrae and then stretch it out. It's just a very little space, about an inch space that I work in. It's close into the attachments. When you realize how much movement the spine also does, it's an important thing to keep these little muscles in here flexible and pliable and make sure they don't get hung up on anything. And then I like to bring my finger down. I can always tell how much release has happened because the back feels a lot different along that vertebrae from when I began. And then this is just one last sweep up. It's just kind of a completion move. Okay. And then going to the other side, which I need to be very careful where I stand. I don't know if this is even going to work. Okay, we'll pull it across here. And this is the same thing I did on the other side. Lifting up the shoulder a little bit. Being up under it here. And across the shoulder a bit. Okay. And now we're going to run down. Come back up to the... I'm having to position my body differently than usual, so it's not quite the same as on the other side when I'm doing the same thing, but it's not really feeling the same to me. It's getting me a little off kilter. And then we'll just brush down now, all the way to the hip. And stand up the vertebrae. I'm hoping that you can see this. And one more. And then the cross fiber friction. And back down, and then a little finishing touch coming up. Okay, the next part is going to be spinal. I'm working along the spines. Change sides of the table again. And we're going to do spinal work where you start with your fingers on either side of the spine and just vibrate down the back. And then at the sacrum, just getting some work done. There's always a lot of little issues going on at the sacrum with the muscles. Now what's nice to do here is to take your thumbs and start down right at the SI joint and just take your thumb and press it into the vertebrae or alongside the vertebrae, and you kind of feel like you're picking the muscle up, so it's kind of a roll coming up. This is a nice, very nice technique to do. It really opens up that space along the vertebrae, stretches those muscles that tighten and hold and support. And then I run my hand down just again to give a nice, and the muscle gets smoother and smoother and smoother the more we work it, right along the attachments. Then the same thing from over here. Taking that along the vertebrae and just rolling the thumb, and then the other thumb works to kind of stretch it out before you get the thumb underneath that muscle. I had a client one time that thought I was getting like massaging underneath, which is sort of true, but not really. But he thought I was able to get down to the next layer of muscle and really palpate it, and it really wasn't the case, but it felt that way because of the movement and the stretching of that top muscle. But you're really still palpating more on the superficial level. And down we go. Okay, and then I come up the vertebrae by widening and doing a kneading type of hand movement, hand placement, catching that, the main erector muscle, basically. I mean, it branches off into other ones, but I'm telling you just for landmark's sake. I'm not really going over the whole back. I'm focused more on the muscle that affects the spine. And then we'll do this again where you're and here I take my thumb, bringing it in and doing thumb irons right up. Now there's a funny little technique here that I'll try to explain. It's going to take a little more advanced work to do this because you're alongside of the vertebrae and you're doing a bit of a pressure, but not really a strong pressure, but you're feeling the muscle where it is, and then you're kind of rolling your thumb in and spreading the muscle, so you're pushing downward while you're spreading, but it's not a real deep, forceful kind of move, but you're giving that muscle a little bit different direction. As we go up the vertebrae, they open in a different way than when you go down the vertebrae. So if you can take the muscle and get that technique to where it's kind of a downward, outward motion with the thumbs, it's another really nice feeling for the spine. But like I say, when you're taking muscle in different directions at the same time, it takes a little bit of practice to get the hands to work that way. And then I go around each vertebrae. I don't go on it, I'm inside of it, around it, and I just run myself down with fingers. Sometimes I use, 2 or 3 fingers, and just down the spine. Feels real good. And then from there, just doing a long kind of sweeping motion to stretch the muscles of the back. And here. Up to the shoulder. And then pulling them in the other direction, wrapping them back up. Wrapping the body. And I always do a little stretching of the shoulders when I'm up there, always sweeping them back outward. And up. And then just at the top of the head, or the top of the spine, just one more. And what I can feel from the beginning to the end is there's much more softness in the muscle. Now my thumbs are across the entire back muscle there. I'm not in a little section of it. And it does feel different, completely different. It's relaxed out. It has more elasticity in its feeling, and it feels much more relaxed than when we started. So there you have it. Another piece of the back work with a little bit different information for you to piece together for your practice. Thank you so much for watching. This is Athena Jezik.